Hi, welcome back to the shed for episode 4 of the Telecaster refurbishment build. And this time we're going to be making the repairs and modifications necessary to the body. Now, as far as repairs go on this body, there's not actually that much to do. I don't know if that'll come out on the camera. There's a little bit of the paint that's left in there because there's a dent in the wood. That's been there for a while. I dropped it and kind of dented the body. And what I'm going to do in a bit is I will just take that little bit of paint out with the heat gun, and then I'm going to try and steam that dent out. I would imagine we should be able to get that out, no problem at all. But other than that, there isn't any damage on the body. There is, however, an issue that I'm not particularly sure that the scratch plate is going to locate on the holes from the old scratch plate, and also because we need to fit this new pickup, I need to make sure that everything is going to go where I need it to be. And the best and easiest way to make sure that that's the case is to just do a full trial build of everything that we've got so far. So before I go much further, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, so immediately I put this scratch plate on. I got a problem in so much as this cutout here is actually smaller than the control plate I'm using, and it's actually quite a bit smaller as well, that cutout. It's probably 2.5–3 millimeters. So that's going to need opening out, and as I suspected, all of my mounting holes are kind of in the wrong position, so they'll need filling. But the first thing I need to do is to get this fitting better, or fitting at all really. But before I do cut this, I'm just going to try something else, because I was actually sent a spare Telecaster control plate by a friend of mine a few weeks ago, as he wasn't going to use it, and I'm just going to try that to see if it's a better fit. And what do you know? It's an absolutely perfect fit. So rather than mess about with the pickguard, I'm simply going to swap the controls off this control plate onto this one. So thanks a lot, Russ. That saved me quite a bit of work there. Okay, and with that swapped out, everything actually fits pretty decent now. Like I say, there is a little bit of a gap here, but we'll just have to live with that. It's not a big deal. But now that we've got that in place, I can actually see that although some of these mounting holes are quite close, they're probably all at least half a hole out. And what that will do is it will stop the screws from going in straight, so they'll all be at an angle and look horrible. So the next job is to whip the pickguard back off again, and then just dowel those holes with a bit of cocktail stick so that we can re-drill them in the actual positions they need to be. So with those plugged, we just need to let the glue dry now before we can clean them up. Then we can properly mount the scratch plate and start marking out for the pickup route. Okay, so they're all nice and dry now. I ended up putting 2 into each one of these. One wasn't quite enough to fill the hole, so they just need nipping off now. And that's simply a case of just trimming them off with a chisel. With those trimmed off, I now need to do another trial build on this, get this all put back together so we can position the scratch plate exactly where it needs to be. So I'll do that off camera. I'll join you back in a few minutes. Okay, so with it all back together again, we just need to kind of mark and drill the holes for the 5 screws that hold the pick guard down. Now, you might have seen me use transfer punches to successfully mark the exact centre of drill holes before, but they're really difficult to use in thin material, and this material is a little bit too thin for transfer punches. But instead what I'm going to use is one of these, which is a hinge boring bit, and basically this positions itself on the counter bore of a hinge screw hole, and then the drill bit comes through the centre and cuts the hole exactly where it needs to be. However, the drill bit in this particular one is a little bit too big for what we want, so I'm simply going to use it to mark the top of the hole, and then we can move to a more appropriate sized one to do the actual drilling with, which in this case will be 2.5mm. We don't need to go in far. They're not a big screw. And those screws now should go in exactly where we need them. And because we drilled centrally, they will all sit down nice and flat. And there we go, all looking rather splendid. We're getting those screws in to sit exactly how we wanted them. It's a small detail, but making nice guitars is all about those small details. Okay, so now we can strip this all back down again and start to mark both the body and the scratch plate out for the pickup routes. Okay, so I've pushed on a little bit off camera with this, and I've marked in the centre line back onto the body, and I've also marked that onto the pick guard. Now, what I intend to do is create a template for this neck pickup. I'm going to cut the pick guard first, and then I can screw that in position and use that to mark the body so that I know I'm going to be getting the route in the body in exactly the position I need to. Okay, so I came down here earlier to do some prototyping for making a template for this Filtertron pickup. I've never put a Filtertron in before, so I haven't got a template suitable. However, the prototyping went so well that I actually ended up with a usable template, and I didn't film any of it. You've all seen me make templates before, and I didn't do anything any different making this one, but I'll talk you through what I did anyway. So I started off with the pickup, and I cut some thin strips of MDF, and I glued those together into this little square, and actually glued them in place around the pickup, so it's a nice snug fit. With that done, I then stuck it to a piece of MDF with super glue and masking tape and ran the route around in there. However, having done that, it wasn't a very good fit because the radius I put into the corners was bigger than the radius here, so it wasn't fitting on the corners properly. So I then put the template back in place very carefully, making sure it was exactly where I needed it to be. And then I ran round again with a 1/4 inch router bit, just running the shaft against my template, and that just cleaned up those corners and then got them to the position where the pickup is just a really nice close fit. I'm very happy with that. So what I'm going to do next is I'll take this pick guard off and I'll attach this template in the appropriate position on the centre line, and then we can cut out for the pickup in the pick guard. I'll reattach it and use that as the template to mark where the pickup route's going to be, hog that out on the drill press, and then reattach the template and do the routing. Pretty straightforward. It's nothing I haven't done before, it's just a different pickup I'm doing it with. Now the only caveat to that is that this is actually a Bakelite pick guard. It's not kind of the traditional ABS or PVC plastic that you might use for one of these, which shouldn't be a problem. I can't see it being a problem routing it. However, the dust that comes off this is probably going to be quite nasty. Bakelite is a phenolic resin, so there's going to be a lot of phenol and formaldehyde and other nasties kind of in this material, so I don't want to be breathing this in, so I will be wearing a mask and making sure I'm controlling the dust as much as possible when I do this. Right, let's get this pick guard off. Okay, so time to get this pick guard cut. I've marked out with the template where I want the cutout to be, so I'm going to get this to the drill press, drill some holes in it, and then I'm going to clear out the bulk of the waste with a coping saw before we finally attach the template and route it properly. Okay, so that's the big hole cut in it. So now it's just a case of attaching the template in the appropriate position and routing this to size. Okay, so that's the basic shape cut out, but now I need to swap the bits for this 1/4 inch straight cutting bit, and I just need to run this around just in the very corners just to make that radius a little bit tighter so that the pickup will fit through it nicely. Okay, get this off the template, see how we've done. Well, it looks to have done a nice clean job. This has still got the film on, so there is a little bit of unevenness in places. But yeah, that's a nice little fit. There's a little bit of margin around it, which is what you need because you don't want it binding up. But all in all, I think that fits quite nicely. Okay, so we can now get this mounted onto the body to mark out the pickup cavity, get that routed, and we're pretty much done for this part of the build. Okay, so that's marked out now. So same process as always, get it to the drill press, hog the bulk of the waste out, and then we can route it to size and shape. I really do love the smell of ash when it's being cut. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, let's see how this has turned out. And that's cut really nicely. Very, very happy with that. And we'll just see, importantly, if the pickup fits. I'll put it in upside down for now. That fits just fine. I don't want to put it in with the wire underneath it just yet because it might not be deep enough and I don't want to damage the wire. So before I do anything else, I'm actually going to drill a channel through straight from the neck pocket and through into the rear pickup cavity, so I can then feed this wire out of the way and then we can trial fit this pickup properly. And for that we're going to need a very long drill bit like this. This is a 300mm long 6mm brad point bit, and all I'm going to do is just run this through that little bit from the neck pocket to the pickup cavity. And then from there, straight through to the bridge pickup cavity. Just like that. This is one of those occasions where a really easy, simple job can be made very, very hard by not having the right tool. But these aren't expensive. I bought this for a couple of pounds off Amazon probably 10 years ago. So yeah, just buy the right tool. Save all the stress. Okay, with that done, we can now kind of feed this in properly and see how we are for depth. Because the problem we've got on this pickup is these pole piece screws actually go through quite a long way. But I think that actually looks about right. I don't want to do a full mock-up at this stage with the bridge and the neck and everything put in place, but I think we're somewhere in the ballpark with that. Okay, so with that done, all we've left to do now is to repair this little dent that's in the side of the body. And as I mentioned before, what I'm going to do is I'll just clean this little bit of paint and stuff out with a heat gun, and then I'm going to apply a damp cloth and some heat with an iron in the hope that that will pop that little dent out. Okay, so this might not show up very well in the shot, but the dent is kind of here and it extends kind of through there like that. It's not massive. Potentially I could sand it out, but if I can get it a little bit closer, that will make me a bit happier. So literally put a damp rag over it. And just add a little bit of heat. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's pretty much gone. It has raised the grain a little bit, but the dent is all but disappeared. So I'm just going to give it a little bit more. And hopefully now you can see that dent is completely gone. It will need a little bit of extra sanding in this area because it has raised the grain. You can probably hear that as I run my fingers over it, but the dent is completely gone. So that's another job we can cross off the list. Okay, so with that done, that's both the body and the neck now ready for finish preparation. But that's going to be a job for next time, so I'll leave this episode here. I hope you've enjoyed this and found it useful. If so, don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.